are some major changes that need to be made to the bill, so I will be reintroducing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on Bill 19-18? I understand there are amendments.
There are amendments that are sponsored by Councilman Marks. There are two amendments essentially. The first amendment is to retain, that is to make an amendment to the bill so that the name of the Department of Public Works is retained rather than changed as proposed in the introductory bill. And secondly, with regard to the qualifications of the Director of Public Works, the language that had been proposed for addition was to require the Director to have some experience in the planning and implementation of pedestrian and bicycle mobility and traffic calming. That language by amendment is removed from the bill. So the name of the department remains the same and the qualifications of the Director remain the same.
Are there any questions or comments before we call? You want to talk about the bill now or later? Is there a motion to approve the amendments to Bill 19-18?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendments.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Allman?
Aye.
Mr. Katz?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye. The amendments to Bill 19-18 is passed. You want to do the vote first, or you want to talk?
I'll talk about it. So,
Councilman Marks?
thank you very much. This is the only proposed legislation at this time that was not brought forward by the Charter Review Commission. This legislation would expand the mission of the Department of Public Works to more explicitly address the needs of all transportation users, including bicyclists and pedestrians. It takes the Department of Public Works, which was created in the 1950s, and requires the agency to look more broadly at 21st century needs. Right now, the language of the charter is very highway focused. The new language says the following: the Department of Public Works shall be responsible for mobility, traffic safety and engineering using a variety of transportation options, including highways, bike lanes, pedestrian improvements, and transit where appropriate. I would like to thank all of my colleagues for their discussions over the past week. I would like to thank Councilman Quirk for his long time work with me on pedestrian and bicycle improvements, Councilwoman Allman for your discussion of fiscal needs of the county government, and our chairman, who played a very critical role in a compromise that I hope we can advance to the voters. Thank you very much.
Anyone? Yes, Councilman Quirk.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Councilman Marks for this proposal. You know, we all love Steve Walsh. He does a wonderful job with Public Works. I think that, what was that? and you know, saying that, I think sometimes administration can look at street paving and basically streets as a lot of our transportation as far as capital outlays. And I do hope in the future, as Councilman Mark said correctly, that we start looking more and more at all different transit options holistically. You know, walking paths and bicycle paths and things like the red line, I think hopefully will one day resurface, which will be good for the county. And because we need to, because ultimately just building a lane on 695, over and over and over is not solving the bigger issue. And of course, some of the solution has to come from the state. The county can't do everything, but we really need to have a bigger vision at Public Works, and I think this helps that. So I do want to commend Councilman Marks on that.
Any more comments or questions? I too would like to thank all the members for coming together, working together on a compromise. It's a good example of how government is supposed to work, and I'm just happy that we all here are here to do that, to work together. On that note, is there a motion to approve Bill 19-18 as amended?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Allman?
Aye.
Mr. Katz?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Bill 19-18 is approved. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Mr. Chairman, before I do that, if I can just add one quick note. All of the proceedings of the Venezuela's Commission are online. All of the minutes of the meetings, all of the work papers. In addition to that, all of the previous Charter Review Commission documents are also online, all the way back to the original charter. This is thanks to the county's Office of Information Technology and Mr. Field, who did most of the heavy lifting on gathering all that information and getting it online, so that the complete history of the charter from its inception in the 50s now up to this point, at which now these bills will be presented to the voters. But all of that is online.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, if I might as well on that, did want to, as we said in the work session, I also want to say tonight, did want to acknowledge and thank the great work from Tom Boswick and Tom Petticord and Mike Field, the administration. Mr. Ted Venatulis did exceptional work. And I think all the appointments on the commission, all of them did exceptional work. It's not easy to go through the charter and actually read it line by line. But this group of dedicated public servants did that, and many of them did it volunteer. And so I do want to just again acknowledge the great work of Mr. Ted Venatulis, of the staff, and of all the commission members.
Any more questions or comments? I, too, will thank the commission members and Mr. Venatulis for all their hard work and effort. And I would also like to thank Mr. Mike Fields, who has, through his research and diligence, become a regular historian who's here to tell us what happened, when, and where. It's good, interesting reading.
I live for that stuff, Mr. Chairman.
I know you do. No more comments? Is there a motion to approve Bill 21-18?
Let me read that into the record, Mr. Chairman. This is Bill 21-18 is sponsored by Mrs. Bevins.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Zoning regulations, cold rolling mill.
Oh, I'm sorry. Lost my place.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would have reminded you of that a second.
Oh, yeah, I would have got to it.
Bill 2118 adds language to the Baltimore County zoning regulations to allow cold rolling mills in manufacturing like zones if located in the industrial major district. This essentially limits these mills to operate, to those properties zoned ML and industrial parks. This bill will allow 150 manufacturing jobs to come to Middle River at the former Worthington Steel site at Kelso Drive and Martin Boulevard. The county zoning regulations does not currently permit or define cold rolling mills. The Act of Cold Rolling Mills and the regulations would prohibit a manufacturer from bringing these 150 jobs to Middle River. So essentially, the actual location itself will have no emissions. All operations will occur indoors. The noise is nothing out of the ordinary for that manufacturing zone. And this was supported by the Essex Middle River Civic Council and the Arrow Acres community where the location is located. So I couldn't be happier to bring 150 manufacturing jobs to Middle River. So I hope that my colleagues will support this bill.
Councilwoman Bevins, I understand that these are not minimum wage jobs.
These are manufacturing jobs, yes.
Good.
Yeah, excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Councilwoman Bevins, you and I share something that I don't believe that other members share, and that is that we have ore and slag running through our veins.
We do. We do.
So I'm as a son of a steel worker who was, at Bethlehem Steel when it was shut down, it kind of touches me that we're bringing the steel back to the east side. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I, too, am the proud son of a steel worker. My father did 42 years at Bethlehem Steel.
That's right. I do recall that.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve Bill 21-18?
I'm going to move it.
I'm going to second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 2118, a bill that will put 150 new jobs in the Middle River area.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye. Ayes have it. Bill 21-18 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item.
The next item are the fiscal matters, Mr. Chairman, and there are two fiscal matters this evening. Fiscal matter 1 is a contract with the Community Assistance Network Incorporated, and fiscal matter 2 is a contract with St. Vincent de Paul of Baltimore Incorporated.
Any questions? Oh, Ms. Van Arsdale. I was going to roll right along, Ms. Van Arsdale, and not even have conversation.
That's fine for me. I guess.
Does anyone feel the need to have conversation on the fiscal matter?
We didn't fire her, did we?
No. I don't think so. I'm sure. I have to take a look sometimes. I'll be sure. I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Are you okay?
I'm here.
Is there a motion to approve the two fiscal matters, 1 and 2?
I'll move it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye. The ayes have it. Fiscal matters 1 and 2 approved. I'm sorry, Ms. Van Arsdale, if you'd like to sing as you're, whatever. We don't need to hear from you. Well, she's going to sing as she walked away. We'll now consider all miscellaneous business. Mr. Secretary, first item, please.
First item is a notification from the Director of Budget and Finance regarding the awarding of contracts that are $25,000 by a process other than a formal competitive bid, and those contracts are required to be announced at the council's legislative meeting. There's one contract this evening with Martin's Incorporated, $37,015.
Any questions? Okay, Mr. Secretary, next item.
Resolution 28-18 is sponsored by Councilman Quirk. This is a resolution of the council supporting the designation by the Maryland State Arts Council of an arts and entertainment district in the Arbutus-Catonsville area.
Councilman Quirk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 28-18 supports the designation by the Maryland State Arts Council of an arts and entertainment district in the Arbutus-Catonsville area. Basically, an arts and entertainment district is a geographically designated area in which a high concentration of arts and entertainment facilities and programs serve as anchor attractions that stimulate neighborhood revitalization, improve the attractiveness of areas, enhance business activity, attract residents and visitors, and build a tax base. Additionally, the Patapsco area in southwest Baltimore County is rich in cultural assets, including performance and gallery spaces at UMBC, the Baltimore County Arts Guild, the Lerman Woodland Theater, as well as community performing and visual art spaces and programs. And if the Secretary of the Maryland Department of Commerce approves the Arts and Entertainment District designation, which of course we hope the Secretary does, Baltimore County will also provide various incentives to help the entities in the Arbutus and Catonsville Commercial Revitalization District. And I asked my colleagues for support. I did want to acknowledge, I know we have two of the people that worked hard on this in the back. I see Bettina Tebow with the Greater Arbutus Business Association and Kirby Spencer with the Baltimore County Arts Guild. And then we had a bunch of other people that helped on this, including Marilyn Maitland, Tom Moore from UMBC, great basketball team at UMBC, Shar Brooks, Jack Murphy, Pat Casola. We had a lot of help from UMBC and CCBC, and of course the Arbutus, Greater Arbutus Business Association and Greater Catonsville Chamber of Commerce. And this application, this isn't really this whole thing, and Baltimore County, by the way, doesn't have an arts and entertainment district yet, so this would be our first. I think there's 25 now in the state, so it's great that Baltimore County is embracing this, and this is an arts guild that can be used for the entire county. And I did want to thank the administration as well. I know Mr. Homan and the administration worked on this as well, so I appreciate your help. I really do, and I appreciate Frona Cohen. I think Frona might be in the back, and Brian Shepard and Miss Van Arsdale. This application is over 200 pages, so it truly is an exercise in tenacity and persistence, and really a lot of people that stuck with this in the community. This is really community-driven, and I give them a lot of credit for that, because this was years in the making to get this off the ground, and I definitely commend the committee and everybody who put this together for bringing it this far. So I ask for your support.
Thank you, Councilman Burke. Any questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 28-18?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Kennis?
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevan?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Resolution 28-18 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 30-18 is sponsored by Councilwoman Allman. This is a resolution to approve the refund of property taxes collected from Julius Jefferson, who is a disabled veteran and entitled to an exemption by reason of state law.
Thank you. It is my honor to move Resolution 30-18.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Kennis?
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevan?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Resolution 30-18 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 31-18 is sponsored by Councilman Jones. This is a resolution to approve the refund of taxes collected from James K. Flagg, who is a disabled veteran.
It is my honor and privilege to move this resolution.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll. Resolution 31-18.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Kennis?
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevan?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye. Ayes have it. 31-18 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 32-18. This is a resolution to authorize Baltimore County to convey a county-owned parcel from the Board of Education of Baltimore County. This is for introduction only this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Next item, please.
Resolution 33-18 is sponsored by Councilman Crandall. This is a resolution of the council to designate the Essex area as a sustainable community. This is also for introduction this evening.
Would you like to say anything, Councilman Crandall? Or-
I guess I'm gonna hold fire until we consider this resolution at the work session,
Okay.
in the interest of time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Secretary, is there any further business coming before the council?
There is no further business, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, the meeting is adjourned. Right now, we're going to have a public hearing on the Baltimore County, let's see. Right now, we're going to have a public hearing on the Baltimore County Council will come to order. We are holding this public hearing in pursuit of the provisions of the Baltimore County Charter and the Baltimore County Code on the following issue. Basic Services Map Report dated February 16, 2018. I'll now read the rules of the procedure for the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak should register with the secretary. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that there is a clock in front of you that will display the remaining time as you speak. When the speaker is called, the name of the next speaker will also be called. That person will be asked to come forward and be prepared to speak. Dave Thomas from the Department of Public Works will speak briefly on the basic services maps.
Mr. Chairman, I believe Mr. Walsh will substitute for Mr. Thomas this evening.
Okay, Mr. Walsh, are you up to it? Mr. Thomas does go for you, right?
Unfortunately, Mr. Thomas is available tonight, so you have to sit in.
Mr. Walsh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, appreciate the opportunity. We are asking for council to ultimately approve the basic services maps. They are available on the county website, on the DPW portion on the left. If you go to the main website and Google basic services maps, it comes right up. So basically, they are available for review and
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Walt? Thank you, Mr. Walt. We do not have any public speakers. This will conclude the public hearing on the basic services map. As is customary, anyone who signed up prior to the meeting, with the secretaries allowed 3 minutes to speak. The secretary, we just gave me a list of people that are signed up to speak, so we will move right along. We will start with Ms. Julianne Zimmer. Welcome, Ms. Zimmer.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Julianne Zimmer, and I'm on the Baltimore County Shelter Advisory Commission and Liaison Committee, founder and president of We Love Animals, member of Baltimore City Mayor's Anti-Animal Abuse Advisory Commission and Education Committee, and the board member of Maryland Votes for Animals. We have some serious concerns in regards to the Oscar case that has still not been properly addressed. We are thrilled with the legislation proposed for extreme weather, also with the investigation the state's attorney completed, as well as the 5 charges filed. There were many breaks in the chain here that need to be addressed so they aren't repeated. Let's address the matter of misleading and inaccurate press release sent out by Yolanda Winkler and Don Moeller to the community, press, council, and legislators on January 3rd, 2018. You all should have a copy of my testimony, which has that on there. I'm going to go over 5 points that talk about that. The first statement made in that press release was the dog died of natural causes. We now know the dog died of hypothermia. Additionally, there was no necropsy done at the time of this press release. There would have been absolutely no way for anyone at that time, approximately 4 days after the death, to know how the dog died. Number 2, there was no evidence of animal mistreatment. We know, in fact, that Oscar's score on a BCAS or the BCS scale was 3 out of 9, clear evidence of serious abuse. It's described as ribs can be felt and may be visible. Top of spine is visible, hip and pelvic bones may also be prominent. An experienced animal control officer should be able to see the visual symptoms. They are unmistakable, even to an untrained eye. There's no cause to charge anyone. There were several lies and inconsistencies in the police report, and there are now 5 charges against this owner. It was determined that the 15-year-old child died of natural causes. We now know that he was 12. And who made the determination so early on about this dog dying? Upon the dog's death, a family member took the remains to the emergency vet to be cremated. We now know that the state's attorney took the body and it was pending a necropsy. This gives the impression, nothing to see here, let's move on. If the administration wasn't aware of the state's attorney's investigation, why is there such a blatant disconnect between the 2 departments that should be working together? It's my opinion that this press release is a clear attempt to cover up the negligence shown by animal control. Its hasty release has no other motive except to calm the masses and cover the truth. Who is responsible for releasing this to the public? Misinformation creates a lack of trust in the people's eyes for their own government. That is very dangerous. Again, the issue of lack of transparency resurfaces for the shelter. In addition, the more important question in the underlying issue, BCAS has not addressed the liaison committee's inquiries since this incident. The monthly liaison committee, which has enriched the shelter for over a year, has now been canceled, citing it's not best for what's on the commission. It was good until we started asking questions. This issue will not go away. We will not let it die until it's properly addressed and put to rest. Your constituents appreciate the council seeing the importance in addressing this issue. We look forward to your response. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Zimmer. Next.